Thank you for being here this morning. Good morning. We continue in our sermon series on the character of a Christian. Who are you? James is a difficult book of the Bible. It is hard for those of us that are heavily focused on grace as we are to read through James, because it is not always focused on happy, joy thoughts. As a matter of fact, one of the passages here in James 4 may be one of the kind of most kind of sad, dark, maybe miserable passages in all of the New Testament. It doesn't fit into our understanding of who Christ is and who He wants us to be. I mean, yeah, we get this cleanse your hands, but be miserable and mourn? Doesn't God want me to be happy? Doesn't He want me to have good things in my life? Doesn't He want me to experience all of these wonderful and great things to succeed? And the answer is yes. We see that clearly in other places in Scripture. But He doesn't want you to experience these things absent holiness. We've been talking about these characteristics of a Christian. And we can tie them all back into one word, and that is holiness. God's desire is for you to be holy. And if having all good things, being happy, being content, never suffering, never sad, never a blow not turned away, if that is an impediment to you being holy and WHOLLY, holy His, then He would rather you suffer. C.S. Lewis, one of the great apologists for Christianity, one of the great Christian writers of any century, C.S. Lewis spoke into the world through his own pain. His wife, Joy, was diagnosed with cancer. And then when in remission, it returned. And she was suffering and painful. And Lewis was talking to her about it. And she said, "Don't you understand that the joy that we experienced then is part of the pain we feel now? It's just the deal." And in one of his letters, Lewis said that pain is God's megaphone to a dying world. It speaks into our lives, it shakes us from our foundation and wakes us up. The title of my sermon this morning is Humility. And I know the devil did not want me to preach this sermon this morning and was intended to tear it down, because I had a wonderful member of our congregation walk up and give me a pair of socks that says, "Awesome Pastor," just feeding into my ego and my pride and not my humility. Thank you for the socks, though. They're cool. Humility. There's a country western song, and you may know the one I'm thinking of, that says, "Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way." Humility. It is probably one of the greatest gifts, one of the most productive fruits of the Spirit, yet it is one that we struggle with so mightily. Why? Why is it so hard to be humble? Why is it that we struggle with it? Why is it that Paul says, "I have become all things for all people so that I might have saved some. What is it that the psalmist means when he says, I am poured out and emptied? What does it mean for us to be wholly and fully devoted to Jesus Christ, that we find our identities only in Him? And I think that is the key. Identity is the key. What makes us who we are? What do we consider who we are? Makes us, what's our identity? What is key to us? I want you to close your eyes for a second, every one of you, everybody. And I want you to think in your head, I want you to visualize the one most important thing that makes you you. What is it? If you're taking notes, write it down. If you're forgetful like me, tell somebody or text it to yourself. What is that one thing? Now add another. And add another. Maybe up to 5. Now my question for you, are you willing to let go of that for Jesus? If He calls you to. What are you willing to sacrifice? Open your eyes. In the first century, Christians were called to go throughout the Roman world sharing the gospel of Christ. We know of the voyages of the disciples. We knew the founding of the churches. We know their martyrdom. We know about Paul and his incredible missionary journeys and how God used Paul. But we also know it cost them their lives. One of the great debates in the first and second century of the church is, what do you do with a Christian that on the point of a spear says, I deny Christ? And they later come back and try to become Christians. Can they do that again? Can they come back to Christ when they denied Him at the point of a spear? Were they willing to lay down their lives? And one of the other great debates that broke out was, well, what if that was a priest and he baptized me and then he denied Christ? Am I really baptized? Am I really a Christian? Or maybe I was ordained by him. He was a bishop. All these questions the church struggled with because it was struggling, I think, with the question of identity. And that I've been trying to struggle with this entire month. It is no mistake I chose the who to ask that question with. Who are you? Ooh, 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 ooh. Who are you? I define myself as a father, a husband, a son, a pastor, a friend. I do all of those. But what am I willing to lay down for Christ? What am I willing to let go of? What am I willing to not go there? If my church, my denomination walks away from the truth of the gospel of Christ, will I walk away? Prove that one. Right? But if my government tells me you can no longer worship here or there or this way, you must shut down, not do this, not do that, am I willing to go to jail? Am I willing to die? And a bigger question is, am I willing to be wrong? How many of you like to be wrong? How many of you hate admitting that you were wrong? How many of you struggle admitting that you're wrong? How many of you feel like you lose who you are and it hurts you to the deep core of your soul and you'd rather have them cut off a leg than admit that you're wrong? Come on, some people in here need to raise their hand. Thank you, baby. I appreciate you. Right? Because our identity is caught up in being right. That's why we struggle with saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Why? Because if I make a mistake and I admit that, then I'm giving everything up. Because if I can be wrong about that, I can be wrong about everything. And I lose my entire identity. No, not really. Have you made a mistake in your life? Yeah. Have I made a mistake in my life? Yeah. Have I been wrong? Yeah, a lot. Maybe you have too. And how hard is it for us to deal with understanding that it's not about us? I had a great wise friend that was the youth director in Richmond, Kentucky, when I was the associate pastor. He had a great saying. He said, true humility is not having a low opinion of yourself. Because one of the problems with runaway humility is you develop low self-esteem. I'm not talking about low self-esteem. I'm not talking about yourself thinking of yourself as an awful human being, because Christ sees you in a much different way. But he said this, true humility is not having a low opinion of yourself. It is having no opinion of yourself. And that the only opinion that matters is Christ's. The only opinion that matters in your life is Christ's. And what does He say about you? You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are who I came and died for, and I would do it all over again. God may be opposed to the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. Don't you know how important you are to Him? But not because you have anything in and of yourself you can offer, but because of Christ through you and in you can do amazing things, and He is doing it because He wants you to be with Him through eternity. So what can we say then? What can we do then? I love that first line there. What are sources of quarrels and conflicts? I watch the news and I am struck by how divided we are as humanity. Not just as Americans, but as humanity. That we're separated by so much. And we tear each other down and quarrel and fight. And if you're wondering why we do that, it is because we live in a fallen world and we are a fallen people. Yes, we are. Not those other people that we're opposed to, not those folks on the other side, not those folks we don't like or don't understand or think are weird. No, we are. We are fallen. We are broken. And we take pleasure in waging war. And we are driven by lust. Maybe not lust like you're thinking of, but lust for things, for glory, laud, and honor, power, control. And it divides us. And our desire to be right. And to make everybody else recognize that we're right. Everybody has a thing that hacks them off. What's yours? What makes you angry? What attitude really bothers you? What is it that really just kind of annoys you? Think about that for a second. What really kind of gets under your skin? Maybe it's people that drive recklessly because they're not taking seriously people's lives. I had a guy pass me this morning in a big, hyped-up four-wheel drive pickup. Right? Just right up. And I was going as fast as my little S10 would go. It was running its legs off. It won't do much. It's pitiful, but it's mine. Right? I don't like that attitude. You know what attitude I like least? It's always bothered me. It's when somebody talks down to you, condescendingly. Really kind of irritates me, right? How dare you? Why do I hate that? I think it's because I secretly think maybe they're right. Maybe I am the idiot. Maybe I am wrong. There is doubt within me, and fear, and pride. because pride masks my fear. And I rise up angry. And whether I'm talking down to somebody else or whether I'm hurting and angry because I'm being talked down to, either way, I'm not actually behaving in a way that allows somebody else to see Christ, because I'm all concerned with me and not them. Right? I'm all concerned with me and not them. Sometimes the best response to somebody that's acting poorly towards you is no response. Sometimes the best response is to smile and be gracious and go, God, love you. Pray for you. It's no response. But we are envious for things that we cannot obtain or we think we cannot obtain. Maybe, just maybe, if we think about it, it's stuff we really shouldn't even want. So we fight and quarrel. I made a comment just a few minutes ago about power. That we crave power and control. Except that those that seem to have power and seem to have control actually have neither. Because they're attempting to control and exert power over a thing that cannot be controlled. In the end, God is in control. This next passage in the second paragraph is one I struggle with. You don't have because you don't ask. Man, that's a great one. Except I've seen the prosperity gospel on late night TV just abuse that. You know what I'm talking about? Sorry, Ken, you do not need another 747 jet. And I'm not sending you any money. The prosperity gospel that says you don't have it because you don't ask for it. They leave out that next line that says, you ask and do not receive because you ask with the wrong motives so that you can spend what you have requested on your own pleasures. And then he calls us adulterers. Not like we're really committing adultery on our spouse, but we are being adulterous towards God. We are violating that wedding vow relationship between the church and Christ because we're being friends with the world. We're being friends with the world. And if we are friends with the world, then we cannot be friends of Christ. But we're tempted by it. It sucks us in. It pulls on us. Just a little bit friendship here. A little bit friendship there. In all of the husbands or wives that I've ever counseled with that have cheated on their spouses, everyone to a letter will say, it started small. It started small. Y'all may be aware that there's a meme going around of a video of an executive and the head of HR. Y'all seen it? Right? I think we ought to pray for them more so than embarrass them anymore. But I want to make a point. I'm sure that that situation started small. Little looks, little smiles, a hand on a forearm, comment about, you smell great. Little things that grew a little bit at a time. You see, we make accommodations with the world. Let me say this again. We make accommodations where we are friendly to the world in little ways, in small ways. And it takes and takes and takes and takes. You see, the devil, he ain't going for a home run swing every time. He's going to nibble at the edges. That makes sense to me as a catfish fisherman. I've catfished for catfish all my life. And the worst thing is we use liver for bait, and you'd put a piece of liver on that true turn hook and put it out there with the cork, And it'd bob and 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 bob. And then it'd quit bobbing. And you'd reel it in, and you'd have an empty hook. Why? Because that catfish had nibbled around the edge till it got it all. You couldn't make it take it. So you had to come up with a better idea, and then you tried stink bait, and that didn't work that great. And then some of that squirt-on stuff, and then all kinds of crazy stuff to try to get the fish to take the bait. Now, I ain't as smart as the devil. I tried to go for it all at once because I wanted to get the fishing over with and get on home and get to the catfish eating part. But the devil is trying to rope us in and playing on our pride, our arrogance, our lusts, our jealousies, all of these things, and to nibble at the edge of us. Just nibble at the edges of us to take us down. To crash our self-worth, but also to make us proud, stiff-necked, nibbling around the edges. To steal our joy, to make us depressed and sad. I was counseling with meeting with a person that was hurting once, and they just looked at me and they said, and the hits just keep on coming. A good friend of some of ours in here used to say, "What's next? Eyebrow dandruff?" When a lot of bad things were happening in his life. The devil's going to nibble at you. Sometimes he'll throw a lot of bad things your way. Sometimes he'll throw a lot of good things your way. But in all the times, he is opposed to you. This world will never be your home. You will never feel right in it. It'll never feel like it's home. This world, let me say this again, is not your home. And if we are too close, too friendly, too okay with it, then we risk being at enmity with God. But what's the answer? Y'all tell me what the answer is. Y'all know it. What do? Resist him, right? Speak to him. Challenge him. And he will flee from you. Here's the thing that I know. The devil has no authority over you if you are bought with the blood of Christ. Look at somebody and go, bought with blood. Are you bought with the blood of Christ? If you indeed are bought with the blood of Christ, if you are redeemed, if you are his, if you have been claimed, if you are his, the devil has no authority over you. He can put things in your way and say, how about this? How about this? I remember first time I was in Red Square, 1999, I think. And we were walking through Red Square. And I bet you there was 1,000 people coming by. Hey, would you like a pen? That's not their accent, so I don't do a Russian accent real well. But hey, would you like to buy a pen? Would you like to buy a Russian hat? Would you like to buy this or that? Well, I got some vodka. You know, whatever it was, they were trying to hawk it. They were trying to sell me. That's Satan. And our interpreter said, just look at him and go, "Nyet." Look at somebody and go, "Nyet." I love the Russian word for no. "Nyet." It has some force. It has some excitement. It seems ready to go. "Nyet." Look at Satan and go, "Nyet." I don't know why, but when I try, in my head, when I resist Satan, I hear it, "Nyet." I don't know why, but I do. We resist him. Whether that's things he's tempting us with, or whether he's pushing us or throwing things on us, we can resist him. Now, that does not mean that bad things aren't going to happen. Car wrecks are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. Diseases are going to happen. Why? We live in a fallen world. It just is. Bad things are going to happen. We will all eventually get old. For some of us, and pass away. Everybody. None of us are going to make it out of this life alive. None of us. Some of us have longer lifespans, right? You know, our nuggets over here got a long lifespan. Some of us are shorter. Some of you are breathing over heaven's gates. I'm not saying that to be funny either. I mean it. Some of us are close. Don't let the devil steal your joy, but also don't let him make you proud. Don't let him pull you into friendship with the world. Finish the race well. You can resist him. I mean, to the point, have you ever had those days where you just felt like everything was crashing in on you? You felt a weight on your chest. You felt like the world was on your shoulders, like it was all horrible. You didn't have any peace. It was just like you felt the pressure of being attacked. Yeah, right? So, I'm going to suggest something strange. And y'all look at me weird because I don't care that you think I'm weird. I know you think I'm weird, and it's okay. I'm trying to be weird for Jesus. Sometimes I'm just weird. But I'm trying to be weird for Jesus. I want to give you something to do. When you're feeling that way, I want you to speak this out loud. Repeat after me. Get thee behind me, Satan. And speak it out loud. Speak it out loud. He said resist him. How do we resist him? We speak the truth. We quote Scripture. We resist him with the Word. Now, why do I know that? Because Revelations 12:11. Somebody look it up if you want to test me on this. But Revelations 12:11 says this. They overcame him, meaning the great Satan, the devil, the dragon. They overcame him by the word, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. By the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. If you want Satan to flee from you, you have to speak at him and claim the promises of Christ. But it works in reverse too. If we want to claim God, sometimes we have to pray to God out loud. You ever seen somebody driving down the road talking? I see it all the time now. But in the old days, you didn't see it that much. And there was a lady in my town that I grew up with. She drove around town talking. Everybody thought she was crazy. I had people say she's crazy as a Bessie bug. Y'all ever heard that? Crazy as a Bessie bug. She's just talking to herself. She was in the library one day when I was in the library because I stayed there after school. My mother dropped me off. And she was in a reading program for little bitty kids. And you know how little kids don't have a filter? And they don't get embarrassed? And they're liable to say anything? There's a little kid looked up at her and said, "My mama says you talk to yourself. Is that true?" And I'm on the other side. I'm not even in that group. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my gosh." I was embarrassed for her. Except that she looked right at her and laughed and said, "No. I'm talking to God out loud." And I thought I'd just let the devil listen in. Sometimes the devil needs to hear your prayers. Sometimes he needs to hear you pray and see you pray. He feels it in the spiritual realm. He sees it. He feels the power. But he needs to hear it out loud because sometimes you need to take the fight to him. But you know who can't take that fight to him? The proud. We have to be humble. Why? Because if I'm all that and a bag of chips, and if I'm the baddest mamma jamma that ever walked and I don't need nobody to look out for me and take care of me, if that's who I am, then God will go, "All right, handle it yourself." Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Because this is the absolute truth. If we are not humble, if we do not allow God into our lives to shape us, to move us, to change us, if we do not let God into our lives and let Him take the lead on everything, in all of our direction, in all of our engagement, in every conversation, in every relationship, if we don't do that, then we will fail, categorically. Even if you have a great life, even if you accumulate mass wealth, if you are respected and talked well about in every door and lintel of your local community, if you, to all appearances in this world, have everything, and you do not let God in to be your Lord and King, to be Master, if you don't do that, you'll still fail. Because all those things are not the measurement of a man or a woman. It is, in the end, how faithful, how humble, and how holy we have become. Pray this year, Lord, make me more humble. Make me more like you, your Son, Jesus. Help me to resist Satan, to submit my heart to you, to humble myself and accept your leadership. Sometimes that's hard for us, though. Some of you know that for 15, 20 years, I guess 24 years, I was involved in the renewal movement within the United Methodist Church. I got involved with the Wesleyan Covenant Association that eventually gave birth to the Global Methodist Church. Was involved in the confessing movement back in the day until we shut down a year or so ago. And I believe God had called me to reform the United Methodist Church and bring it back to its roots, to make it a holy church again. I thought that's what God had called me to do, and I fought, and I fought, and I fought, and I went and got on the floor at General Conference and called out a bishop on the floor of General Conference. I don't know what possessed me to do that, and I fought till I couldn't fight anymore. And I was sure I was right, that God had called me to change it, me and others. But I had to humble myself and realize and face up to the fact that that was not the case. Moses did not come to lead his people to reform Egypt. He led them out. Now, I'm not Moses. I'm not even close to Moses. I might be a baggage handler in Moses' retinue. But it was a tough pill to swallow and humbling. But God said clearly to me one day, if you just watch where I'm leading you and quit trying to lead where you want to go, we'll get somewhere. Holy moly. I'm horrible at leading myself. It's really best that I just let Christ be in control. Because He knows everything. He sees everything. He's smarter than me, wiser than me, deeper than me. Why? Because He was here from the foundations of the world and He knows better. There's a great song that we sang at the Wesley Foundation at Ole Miss as I was growing up. Some of you may remember doing these at camp, but it was, humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. Y'all remember that one? Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord is a call and response. And He will lift you up higher and higher, and He will lift you up. And then we did it all over again. Then we did it 7 times. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. And He will lift you up higher and higher. And He will lift you up. I pray that over the next weeks, months, years, that you walk this earth, that you humble yourself in the sight of the Lord, that you seek God's face, that you submit yourself to His wisdom, that you call out to Him, that you resist the pull of this world and Satan, and you stand up to him, and he will flee from you. And I pray that you walk into the promise of the promised land. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.